Sometimes the issue isn't motivation, it's clarity. So if somebody has 40 conversations and no appointments, that's a skill conversation to have with them. If someone has zero activity, that's going to be that accountability conversation we are talking about. And if their pipeline is just simply messy and it's hard to determine who's who, that's a systems conversation about getting organized of what their pipeline actually looks like.
Okay, so let's just say the quiet part out loud for a second. Most real estate team leaders are working all day and still feel behind. They're answering Slack messages, jumping into deals, helping agents with contracts, looking at dashboards, checking emails, responding to texts. I am winded just from saying all of that. So by the end of the day, team leaders are thinking, why does this still feel chaotic?
And usually the problem isn't effort because we know that team leaders are some of the hardest working people. The issue is that they're reacting all day instead of leading intentionally.
And the reality is leadership isn't about doing more things. It's about focusing on the few things that actually move the business forward. Because when leaders simplify their day, everything starts to click. So let's get into it. Welcome back to the Reside Platform podcast. Brooke and I are here today to take over from Saneet. So let's have some fun. I am Lauren Holland, Director of Client Experience here at Reside. My role really sits across the whole client journey from when a team leader first joins us all the way through helping them actually implement and adopt the systems and strategies we introduce so when they work in the real world.
And I'm Brooke Reiki. I am the client success manager here at Reside. I work really hands on with our team leaders every single day, whether it's onboarding new teams or helping our existing teams by simplifying their operations and really working with the leaders to focus on what actually is going to be driving the results.
Yes. So between the two of us, we see hundreds of teams. And one of the most common questions I think that we hear is, where should I actually be spending my time as a leader?
Exactly. We hear it all the time. Leaders ask us, what should I focus on daily? Or how do I stop feeling behind? Or what actually is going to move the needle for my team?
So today we want to simplify leadership down to something very practical. The three power hours that anchors a CEO, a team leader, someone's day. So let's get into it. Before we do, though, we need to zoom out for a second because leadership really comes down to three responsibilities. The first, growing the team. That's recruiting. Number two, driving production. That's inspecting what's happening in the CRM. If a leader consistently focuses on those three things, your business is going to grow.
But what happens instead, and it's something that we see very commonly, is that leaders spend their time solving problems that shouldn't really even belong to them, which
Mhm.
might look like chasing paperwork, chasing checks or compliance, fixing CRM tags, answering admin questions, or really just jumping into every single deal that feels stressful to them.
Yeah. And we hear it all the time. Leaders and admins on the team, they are shiny objects, if you will. And that's not a bad thing. But if we don't respect our own time and we just let the gotta minutes get in our way, that disrupts a lot of our day. So, all of these things matter that Brooke just talked about. It's part of leadership. But when leaders stay stuck, or I should say, and when leaders stay stuck in those tasks, they lose time that they should be spending growing the business through production and profitability. I can't talk today. This will be fun. Leadership is about creating momentum, not managing chaos, which is where these three power hours come in. So let's start with talking about those recruiting conversations. This is where leaders usually avoid the most because they're telling themselves, and we hear this from leaders all the time on our coaching calls, they'll recruit when things calm down. They don't want to do it. But the truth is, recruiting is what makes things calm down because strong teams, strong producers do not happen by accident. They happen through consistent conversations. And that is how you build your pipeline through people. And we're going to break down exactly how to do that.
Absolutely. And that is something I've realized very quickly in talking with successful teams is, hey, what changed from having a tough year versus having the most successful year that you've had with your team in history. And the biggest answer that I receive is recruiting. Is just bringing on more agents. And recruiting doesn't have to be complicated. I think that leaders feel like they need the perfect funnels or the perfect script or the perfect marketing, but really, recruiting just comes down to conversations and just being genuinely curious about other agents' businesses. So that
Mhm.
could be questions like, what's working well for you right now? Or what challenges are you running into? And I bet you more often than not, you'll start to see those trends and you'll start to understand how you can help support them in helping either support what that's already working well or helping support what those challenges are and helping steer them into a different direction.
Yeah, so it's one focused hour, right? That's it. That's all you need. I was on a coaching call yesterday with a team leader and we were looking at their calendar and it was such a good exercise and experience. It's the same thing as you want to get better with money. Look at what you're spending every single day. How much money are you spending on Starbucks or Dunkin' every week? You'd be surprised once everything adds up. So it's the same thing with looking at your calendar. We're talking about recruiting here. And most people are like, well, they're trying to grow a team and they're like, oh man, I'm so busy. We know, we sympathize and empathize with you. Totally. We get how hard it can be. However, when are you going to do it? When are you going to actually grow your team? So let's take a look at your calendar because if it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. So when you are building out your day, what I would do is account for drive time. Account for when you're going into the office. When are all of your meetings? Put those meetings in a different color. When are you actually going to be eating? How long does that actually take you? And I know it sounds a little, what's the word, anal, that we're really tracking the time, but like we don't have to measure time by 30 minutes or an hour on the dot. Sometimes something can take you 17 minutes to eat. Block that time out. It's going to let you in your calendar so we can be more purposeful on what activities we're actually doing. So I encourage you all as you're planning your week and you're thinking about recruiting and building your team, are these money making activities? Put those in green. Or are these things that are distracting me so I do not do the right activity? It's all about the stories we tell in our head. So I'm going back to the recruiting, the 1 hour. Open up a list of your agent, or not your agents, but of agents. Get a broker metric list. Pull a list of agents you've worked with in the past that you had a really great transaction with. Go to your attorneys or title companies or lenders and say, hey, who's a really great agent in the area that you think I'd have a really good synergy with? Past people that have talked to you about maybe joining your team and maybe you weren't ready to build yet. Indeed leads, agents you've met at events. The list could go on. You can get creative, make an A, B, and C list of these people and then have a place, even if it's a piece of paper. I wouldn't put it on there, but like no excuses, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Open a Google spreadsheet, open an Excel, and start writing these down and tracking the last conversations you have. Okay. So we are in the relationship business, not just the transactions. Okay. So you're going to treat your recruits the same way you would your pipeline as if you were working a deal. You're going to call them, you're going to text them, you're going to follow up, you are going to log the notes, you are going to set the next touch. You can use your CRM for this. I don't always recommend that. I do like a separate CRM. So if you don't agree, don't yell at me, but have something organized and have something. We're going to talk about perfection in a little bit, but you do not need to have a perfect system. You just need to get into action. And having 3 to 5 real conversations a day or even in a week, if you're not doing it, changes everything.
Absolutely. And we actually just saw this with recently with a team leader who had come to us and said, hey, I'm feeling really stuck with recruiting right now. I am not seeing the needle move forward. And then when it came down to it, and we really looked at their activity, they were having zero recruiting conversations a week. So what we did is we implemented anchoring 1 hour a day to recruiting. And that's again 5 days a week. Within 1 week, they had 3 recruiting appointments scheduled, and 2 of them actually ended up joining the team. And that was nothing fancy. It was simply just that adding that consistency into their day just like Lauren was talking about, as far as looking at your calendar, if this is something that's supposed to be really important for you and you know is going to move the needle forward for you, is it on your calendar? Is your calendar representing what your actual goals are for the team and for yourself?
Right. And Brooke, I want to jump in there really quickly before we talk about the next hour, because we were talking about, you said something and then I forgot. Sorry. I always do this. It's going to come back to me. You said something really good about, oh, shoot, conversations and agents. And now we're going to move on. And then when that thought comes back to me, I am probably going to jump in and interrupt.
Or we'll remind it. We'll remind. We'll kind of go back through these too.
I
So
want to
we'll
do
fit
that.
it
It's mom brain.
in. I get it.
It was good too. Okay.
Let's get into the second power hour. We'll come back there. So, really, the second power hour is going to be where your leadership becomes visible. So, this is going to where you're going to work directly with your agents. And the easiest way to do this is going to be something that's really simple. It's going to be a team power hour.
So with this, sometimes our leaders, we can get it wrong, and that's totally okay. Failing forward is what I call it. It's how we learn. So these things that I'm going to talk about are important, yes. So building out dashboards, reporting, building systems and tracking those. These tools absolutely help. But tools aren't going to build your culture. The leadership does. And what the agent actually needs is your presence, your energy, you showing up, paying attention, and helping them move forward.
Exactly. And that's why they joined the team, by the way, is because you had talked to them about being a leader within yourself that's going to show up and pay attention to them and help them move forward. So you need to model that. Agents are going to model what they see their leaders doing. So, like Lauren said, if you're not doing those activities, they're not going to do the activities. If you're not in the office, they're not going to come to the office. If you're not making calls, they think it's fine if they don't make calls. So here's a really simple structure that any team can run tomorrow. Step
Mhm.
one, get everyone a call and everyone pulls up their lead list in their CRM. Step two, set a 30 to 40-minute timer. Step three, everyone calls, including you as the team leader. And then step four, you're going to end with a quick scoreboard. So you just need to ask three questions there to wrap everything up. Who had the conversations? Who booked an appointment? And who needs that help with follow up? And you will see who is actually rising to their activities.
It's so good. And keep a consistent schedule throughout the week, right? Sometimes if you want, set the expectations. That's what you have to do. If you want everybody, if you have an office, let's talk about in office and we'll talk about virtual. If you have agents and expect them to come into the office at 8:30 to get scripting done, gratitude, how many appointments, like setting the intentions for the day, depending on the size of your team, show up and be there and then start at 9 a.m. If you want to mix up the rhythm of your week a little bit and add in a call night, maybe, hey, the expectation isn't get there at 8:30. The top high producing agents still are going to. They're going to beat you to the office. It's just in their DNA. Set up a call night. Have people get there at 2:30, do the same thing, set your intentions, and then at 3 p.m., just start calling. It's switching up the rhythm of your week. It gets people engaged. It's fun. Have some food at these things maybe once a month, but do it weekly and stay consistent. This is not you lecturing them. You are modeling the behavior of showing up. So I like to say that great leaders don't just tell agents what to do, they show them what it looks like. Because agents do not, sorry, someone's calling me, do not rise to expectations. They rise to what they see their leaders doing consistently. And when the leaders are in the room making calls too, the energy of the team shifts. So be that lighthouse for them. Okay. It stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like momentum. And that's when you're going to start getting more buy in. And it feels really cool once you see that happening because your production's also going to start going up. And I was also going to mention some key metrics to make this really simple and actionable. So I like to say we are going to set 2 appointments each week and we're going to meet with 2 appointments each week. Meaning you can set 12 appointments that week. But let's get really clear about what appointments means. This is not a follow-up appointment where you've already met with somebody. This is a brand new person where you're going to go have a real estate conversation with. You don't have to sign anything. I mean, that's always the goal, but it's just the appointment. Okay. We should always try to sign at the end, but you know what I mean? So you could set 12. How many of those 12 did you actually meet with? And then we can dive deeper into the conversions. So I'll digress. And then adding in 5 new contacts every week. You should be out, go to networking events, go to a restaurant. Every conversation should be a real estate conversation. Everyone's asking what you do, especially when you're meeting somebody. That small talk, why not take it to your advantage? Because you're the best person to be helping them with their investment, real estate, buying, selling goals.
Absolutely. It's a relationship building conversation as well. So it doesn't have to be salesy. Again, it's coming from how we talk about recruiting. It's just coming from curiosity and talking with other people, really just building that relationship.
Mhm. Which then very nicely goes into our third power hour, which is where great leaders really are going to separate themselves. This is inspection and coaching because great teams are not built by hoping things are working. They're built by paying attention as an ops person to what is actually happening inside the pipeline.
And I want to specify too that this is not micromanaging. I think a lot of leaders get that in their head of, oh, I don't want to overstep. I don't want to micromanage or make agents feel like I'm on top of them every moment. It's really just simply it's leadership visibility. It's taking that time to understand what's really happening inside of your agent's business instead of your business. And the good news is you don't need to look at everything. The 3 things that will tell you the most about everything that you need to know is going to be the last lead touch date,
Mhm.
overdue tasks, and stage accuracy there. So I work with teams all the time on maximizing their CRM and help them onboard into a streamlined CRM. And the results are very visible. I can tell you that firsthand. That when we review the database, we start by looking at the stages. So
Mhm.
where we look at when we look at stages, we're looking mostly at where are most of your leads living. So for example, are they stuck in that lead stage where there's still a lot of qualifying that needs to happen? Is that the stage that's swallowing your database? And then we'll look at overdue tasks. So, what's getting missed the most? Is it follow up calls, texts, things like that? From there, we're going to ask, are there any tasks that we can possibly automate? So, now that we know what the best practices are and we're doing those, how can we put them into an automated motion so emails are automatically going out or agents are automatically being reminded or the reminders are put on their calendar? How can we do that? And then we want to check in on that last touch date. So are agents actually following their follow-up best practices? Or do they even know what the best practices are? If you can make those visible through a smart list or a segment, just depending on what CRM you have, it really is going to take that guesswork out of the equation. I always tell teams if I review your database and I'm confused on what I should be doing every single day as an agent, then I sure your agents are going in there and they feel a lot of confusion on what they need to be doing every single day and who they need to be following up with. So make it as visible as possible so there's no question about it.
So good. And I just want to highlight you, Brooke, because you're in these conversations every single day with agents and coaching teams. And when we're running trainings, we need to make sure that people know how to use the CRM. We're inspecting what we expect here. So, what Brooke does is she works with teams and teaches them how to use it and how to do everything she was just talking about. It's just so good. And she just laid out such a purposeful plan with so many nuggets that I hope you all take and go do an audit of your database. So I'll digress a little bit and go into the next part, but it's just so good. Another thing that we hear from leaders all the time is this limiting belief. Well, they're 1099 contractors. I can't really tell them what to do. It's just simply not true. That is when we start hearing things like, oh, my agents are lazy because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Hold the
Yeah.
line, man. Just hold that line. Accountability is one of the best forms of leadership you can give somebody because when leads are going uncalled, you're losing money. The team is losing money. Your agents are losing money. This is not about control. It is about helping people win. And we always want to come from contribution. And that is what you're doing as a leader. If that is not your mindset, let's redirect. Let's do a
Mhm.
mindset check. Let's check our energy. Are we showing up? Everything we've been talking about today. So when we review these three things in the pipeline, last touch date, overdue tasks, stage accuracy, patterns start showing up real quickly and naturally, and you're going to start getting really attuned to these things. And if you're like Sunit, it's going to really tick you off. And then you're going to be able to just go reach out and be like, why wasn't this done? And you're on it because then you're not missing the business. And we're always looking for more leads, right? Go work the leads that you already have in your database, and you will be surprised by what you can.
Absolutely. And I want to just add something right there real quickly before we continue with that. That's typically the number one thing that I hear from team leaders when they're worried about their lead generation. They say there's not enough leads in here.
Mhm.
You go in there and they might have tens of thousands of leads. They're just not new, fresh leads. But you don't need the new, fresh leads. You have tons of gold within what you already have. It's just creating the follow up system to make those rise to the top.
I think it's better when you have leads that have been in there for so
Mhm.
long, because how many of you have talked to somebody that has been in your database, depending on the age, like 5 years,
Yeah.
and they say, "Oh, I actually bought last year with so," and you're so mad at yourself because you set it and forget it. The action plan wasn't actually working. You didn't actually follow your to-dos, and you missed the opportunity. Don't do that. Go. I hope this
Mhm.
inspires you to go check everything today. Excuse me.
Yeah, and add your family and friends and sphere in there too, by the way. There's nothing worse than calling a family member or a friend and checking in on them, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I just bought a house." You're like
You're like, "What?"
they're like, "Oh, I forgot you were in real estate." It's because you have not reminded them that you are in business. That's the worst feeling, so don't do that.
It's not their job to remember either.
Exactly.
There's so many ways to market yourself, because the way you gotta think about it is you are the best person to work to lead them through this journey. People are gonna smell commission breath. We talk about that all the
Mhm.
time. You're just in it for the money and really salesy, they're not gonna wanna work with you. But if you're coming from that relational nurturing, building that conversations, and I said relationships already, but that's what you're doing, building the relationship, you're gonna win. And they're gonna wanna work with you. And you're gonna, I always used to say the relationship really starts with me after the deal closes, because you're going to continue to nurture that relationship. That's just what happens. So let's get a little bit back to what we were talking about before, but these are really important things when we're talking about patterns showing up quickly. You're going to start to see where the deals are stuck, where follow up stopped, where the pipeline is slowing down. And that's going to give you the starting point for a real coaching conversation. And that's going to look like this. If someone is making their calls, then the next question becomes, what does this person's conversion look like? If you have a really good CRM, it's going to help you with those numbers, or you could do some simple math and figure it out too. Ask AI. Because if an agent has 5 under contract and 2 pre-listings coming up, that's not going to be the agent that you're worried about. Okay. What I would coach them on is who's next. Okay. So that the next quarter they have no business. So it goes back to principle 2, showing up with your agents to dial every single day or Monday through Friday, whatever that schedule looks like, with no excuses. They need to be generating new leads even though they have business. This is when we start expanding our capacity and expanding our ceilings and limiting beliefs. They're going to be generating new leads every day and also nurturing their database, those 5 people every week that we're adding, and tag those correctly by going through their smart lists and to dos.
Mhm.
But the
Totally.
ones who are doing the work and not producing, that's usually a conversion problem. And the most, when we're talking about coaching, those are the people that's going to come up. The other ones you're not going to want to lose on the team, but that's why we recruit too. It's all full circle, it's all connected. So when you slow down, review the scripts, listen to calls, and coach, and then there's one other category, the ones who aren't doing anything. These are the agents we're talking about who we claim and deem as label as lazy.
What I hear the most from team leaders is my agents aren't doing anything. That's very, very common.
And it's what lights a lot of team leaders' hair on fire. This is what they
Yeah.
get hung up on. We hear it all the time. It's not a new problem, but it's an accountability conversation. Are they serious about being on your team, or are they just taking up space in the organization? You are giving them an opportunity to step up or step out. That's when we talk about, I don't like this word at all, but firing agents. That's what we hear a lot. Hey, we got to fire them. Okay, did you have the conversation with them? What does it look like? There could be a lot of things we could do up front to see what they're capable of. And I want to highlight that's exactly why recruiting matters, because great teams are always bringing new energy and opportunity into the pipeline. And you're going to lose some really great agents. You just are, and it's going to hurt so bad. Time to recruit. Maybe time to
Exactly.
get back into production.
Yeah, exactly. Ask any successful team leader that you are looking up to, how many times have they had to let go of a highly productive agent on their team just because maybe they weren't a great culture fit or they weren't willing to follow the expectations and standards that you have laid out for them. It's just that sometimes that happens and that's okay. But
Mhm.
you know that you are constantly recruiting, going back to number one, you're constantly recruiting and bringing in that new energy. So that loss doesn't feel as painful
Yeah.
when that comes around because you've already got five others that are coming in and are willing to follow the expectations that you have in place. Really, sometimes the issue isn't motivation, it's clarity. So if somebody has 40 conversations and no appointments, that's a skill conversation to have with them. If
Mhm.
someone has zero activity, that's going to be that accountability conversation we are just talking about. And if their pipeline is just simply messy and it's hard to determine who's who, that's a systems conversation about getting organized of what their pipeline actually looks like.
Yeah. And that's why inspection is so powerful. I'm going to keep saying it, inspect what you
Mhm.
expect. Yes, you can hire a database manager, you can have a virtual assistant, VA, in that system every day. But as the team leader, you still have a responsibility to go inspect what you expect, because at the end of the day, these are your leads that you're paying
Mhm.
for. You want to make sure that action plan is set up the way you want it to be, that the cadence still makes sense, that the messaging is still accurate, if you will, and aligns with how your team is actually communicating. You also are going to see things like agents when they last logged into the CRM. You can actually go check it. And it's going to really surprise you and tick you off probably, because it's going to be like 17 days, or some will say yesterday or today. You will be surprised. And then that's going to be a really good accountability thing. You can have your admin or a virtual assistant go in and pull this up every day. And then that's how you have those visibility conversations with your agents. So, as a rule of thumb, agents should be logging into their CRM almost basically every day, at least minimum 5 days out of the week, because data is what helps you coach the pipeline. When you just focus on the data and the numbers, it's not emotional.
Mhm.
It's the numbers tell the story. So the data, once again, helps you coach the pipeline. It's not just the person. You are not guessing. You are not reacting emotionally. You're looking at what the business is telling you and helping that person move forward. And that is really where the core of leadership is.
Yes, absolutely. Numbers don't lie. I always tell that. And I love that you said numbers tell the story. Again, takes the emotion out of it, takes the guesswork. It just is what it is. And that's okay. How do we interpret those numbers and move forward? One thing I think that we see hold leaders back all the time is waiting until everything is perfect. They
Mhm.
want the perfect CRM. They want that perfect recruiting process or the perfect accountability system. And they think that once everything is built perfectly, that's when they'll start. Once they've got everything built out now and perfect in the way I want it long term, now I'll do it. But unfortunately, leadership just doesn't work that way, actually.
Mhm. Yeah. I can't call myself a recovering perfectionist. Maybe I can. I'm learning I might have a control problem. But so I don't know if control and perfectionism ties together. Maybe we have some people that want to have a deeper conversation about that later. But the team, I guess I'm saying I'm like your most type A, type B friend or coach you might ever have, because I'm an ops leader. I'm going to make sure that stuff works, but I'm not getting hung up on the perfection. Is it built out great? We are going to refine the kinks of it, but I'm going to start running it so I can get into action and not just stress and procrastinate and sit on this, right?
Absolutely. How many times have you had that project that's on your to-do list over and over again because you're like, well, I just want to tweak it a little bit more. I just want to do this little thing. And then you look back and you realize that that project came on your list 3 months ago and it's still not put into action.
Yeah, and it's inaction. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Perfection is inaction. Get into action, get it done, do something with it. I feel very strongly, if you can't tell about that. I have so many thoughts on it, but anyways, so teams that grow the fastest are not the ones, like I said, with perfect systems. They're the ones who just start. I think that is what we need to hear is just start. I like to talk about working in bursts and focus time as well. If you are just commit to it and just start doing it. When do you work? When's your best time of day to perform, if you will? Is it the morning? Is it the afternoon? Is it the evening? Usually it's the morning for most people because that's when they have their most energy and usually not as many meetings. So is it 5 a.m.? Is it 6 a.m.? Is it 3 p.m.? Just figure out what that time is for you and just commit, put your phone down and focus. You're going to get so much more done if you even just do it once a week. I promise you. These are the consistent rhythms that we're talking about. And leaders who are willing to fill the gap when something breaks down, they're the ones who are going to win. And sometimes, especially when you're building a team, you're really building the plane while you're flying it. Some people are going to disagree with that. But like I said, we're not talking about perfection here. We're just talking about starting to do it. And this is what growth is going to actually look like because systems evolve. I'm not saying don't go back to it. We're talking about auditing and inspecting what you expect. So processes are always going to get refined, but the momentum is what builds the business. So you don't need the perfect system. You don't need you do need the rhythm to stick to. Just start imperfectly. And if that makes you cringe, good. Growth makes us uncomfortable. I hope it does. Pay attention to what is working and fix what is not. Just keep moving forward.
Exactly, 100% to everything you just said. Leadership is really built through that repetition. So when your team sees that same rhythm every week, they see your recruiting conversations, you're doing the team power hours, pipeline reviews, you're having a weekly team sales training. That's when your culture starts to form. Not because everything was perfect, but because that leader showed up consistently and built that culture.
And culture is trust, and consistency is what builds that.
Yeah.
So your team is going to know what to expect. They are going to know what matters, and they know that the leader is actually in it with them.
Mhm.
So if you're sitting there listening and thinking, congratulations, you have made it this far, that this would have been really helpful when you first built your team, good news, it still works. The goal here isn't to rebuild everything overnight. It's simply about strengthening the leadership rhythms inside of your business.
Exactly. You don't need to listen to this and be like, great, I need to overhaul my entire system now. Pick one power hour to strengthen first. And it might be something that you're already doing. So tell your team what you're focusing on, explain why it matters and how it will benefit them, and then stay consistent with it. So, for example, you might already be doing team trainings once a month. Maybe
Mhm.
it's just adding to it of doing it weekly instead of monthly. You're just changing the cadence a little more. So it doesn't have to be a complete overhaul. Maybe it's one small tweak and then continue building from there.
Yeah, there's so many things that we could do on another podcast talking about sales meetings or what you're struggling with, but just try like small tweaks. Your agents aren't showing up, you want to get more adoption. Start setting better standards. Do you have a team standard agreement on your team? When are your sales meetings? Are you actually preparing for those sales meetings? Because you should be nervous for those. You should be like, I need to give my best performance every single week because that's how people are going to join your team because you're actually growing those agents. There's so many things we could talk about here because culture, it's just what we're talking about is not just one big announcement when you're trying to refine and re-strategize and re-engage your team. It's going to come from you and what you do consistently. So when your team sees you showing up in recruiting and working with your agents and coaching the pipeline, that's when things are going to start to shift. And honestly, it happens faster than most leaders expect. It's like I always use the example of working out. If you're consistent and eating right, you're going to start seeing results quicker than if you worked out once a week, then ate like crap the rest of the week. And then you're like, well, I don't know why I'm not seeing any results. I did 30 crunches last week. It's the consistency around it. So, anyways, today, here are our takeaways. Thank you for being with us today and listening all the way through. If you have made it, This is what we want you to walk away with. Leadership doesn't require more hours. We all have 24 hours in the day. I'm sure you heard that. It's what you do with them that matters, and it requires clearer priorities. So if a team leader did nothing else but these three things every day, recruit, call in their database with agents, and inspect the pipeline, most teams would double their production.
Absolutely. Because those three things drive everything else. Drives more conversations, more accountability, and really more momentum just across the team in general. And again, those are 3 power hours. So it doesn't have to take your full day. It's those three things, 3 hours to put in to be a team leader. What you need to do is just cut the noise, lead visibly, and then really let that system evolve as you go. Again, not being perfect and starting messy and being okay with that.
Mm-hmm. And as our dear coach, John Sheplack, always said, work works when it's focused on the right things.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us today on the Reside Platform podcast.
Yeah. And if this episode helped you think differently, shifted your mindset in any way about how you're leading the team, building your team, share it with another team leader who could use it. Come from contribution. And maybe that's a good recruit too.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.